ADM Jabalpur case is perhaps the biggest blot on the Indian judiciary. But having said that, there was also a case of Bharti case which shows the independence of the judiciary at some, at a stellar light, actually. My question to you is pretty much the same. In your opening remarks, would you like to highlight a time when the judiciary was very independent, when it was very, very autonomous? And I want to add something here, as an observation. It is believed by a lot of people, both legal luminaries and observers, that the period from some time, towards the end of Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi's term, right up until 2014, was the heyday of the judiciary, and the judiciary was all powerful. And I don't want to go into the kind of a conversation that sometimes comes up with regard to that, with overreach and perhaps what we studied in law school as judicial activism. But I want to limit this to the fact that, in your opinion, when do you think the judiciary in the last 75 years has been the most autonomous and the most independent? And do you believe a strong executive leads to a weak judiciary, and a weak executive leads to a strong judiciary?
That's quite a few questions all in one. But anyway, to come back to where we were, so two things I entirely agree with you and with Indira. ADM Jabalpur, the blot on the landscape. As far as the judiciary is concerned, let me just give you one specific answer to this. Today in India, if a common man has a grievance, will he go to the executive, will he go to the legislature, or will he go to the court? It is known and it is believed that a common man will approach the last court and the final court and the apex court because of his belief in justice. And that belief continues from 1947 till now. If you ask me what is the hallmark of constitutional reach, and I don't mean overreach, I mean reach, Keshwanand Bharti possibly is across the landscape, which gave constitutional morality. In fact, it gave that soul into the body. So today also you find that that interpretation is being carried across. And I don't like the classification of 2014. It has overtones. However, I won't stress on it too much. But let me tell you that today, and for the last almost, and I'm taking it across board for some time, for the last about 20 years or so, the kind of rights that the judicial system has evolved for us, whether it is women's rights, whether it is human rights, whether it is children's rights, whether it is security of the country, which I think is one of the most integral parts of any of our rights that we are concerned with, I think we have evolved in every possible way. Just let's talk about Gul. We have, for example, the permanent commissions in the army for women. Look at the staggering nature of that judgment, and we can actually look across and say, so I believe in one thing. There are times when some of us lawyers say there's a little judicial overreach because a subject is being dealt with which possibly should not be dealt with. But then you cross the other side of the hurdle and say, well, things are not happening in the normal course of time. Things are not happening as required. You do require these rights to live in this world and for India to develop. So whether it's economic development, and incidentally there's a whole concept of economic legality, so to say. So you have this entire economic surface to look at to say how will India develop, and India has developed in leaps and bounds, thanks to the fact that we've been able to bolster our system with the constitutional strength and the soul and the independence. And lastly, if you talk about independence, I fear there is over-independence at times. Now, NJAC, the body that was set up by the government to look at the appointments and possibly the removals also of the judges as and when required. We only have impeachment, by the way, today. And impeachment has never been successful the world over. India not. Once it was tried, it fell to a lack of success. So ultimately you had the NJAC itself, which was set up by the government, and by unanimity, by the way, across political parties. It was struck down by the Supreme Court. Now, what else do you expect to say in terms of independence? An independent judiciary who's dealt with every scam, they're about, offhand speaking, in the recent past, starting from, let us say, about 10 major scams, whether you take 2G, whether you take coal batters, so much so the Supreme Court has intervened at every stage to ensure that we have a clean landscape. Now, if that is not independent, what is? Only on the last front, you had a question regarding whether you have a strong executive, will you have a weak judiciary, and if you have a strong Judiciary, you'll have a weak executive. I think we have made a difference. This country has made a difference. So you have a strong executive and you have a strong judiciary. And I think they run across pretty well in conjunction with each other. And there is nothing called I or you. It is I and you.
Yeah, ideas of India.